Hello, BookTube. This is Alan. I'm here to show you what I'm reading, and also I got some mail. Let's go to the mail first. Excuse me. I received in the mail the other day from the University of Chicago Press. This is cartography and geography. This is just a specifics. This is the little catalog they sent me. This is this one is a 6-volume set of the history of cartography, and uh, volume 1 goes to cartography, prehistoric, ancient, and middle Europe in the Mediterranean. Volume 2, book 3, is cartography in African American, Arctic, Australia, and Pacific societies. Volume 3 is cartography in European Renaissance, and they don't have 5 here, but it has volume 6, cartography of the 20th century, and this is cartography in the European Enlightenment. These are all, let me see, this volume, more than 400 encyclopedic articles, explore the era's mapping, covering topics both detailed and broad, and has biblical graphical references, nearly 1,000 full-color illustrations. So, yes, and this one's on sale. This one up here is on sale for just $400. And this goes on for different maps. America 100 maps, Boston history, and pictorial maps. And it just goes on like this. And this is with different maps and different lost maps, Islamic maps, medieval Islamic maps, Oriental maps, Asian maps, the Red Atlas, the cartography, the idea of just history, map of the moon, and yeah, anything. If you're interested in maps or cartography, this would be very good for you to have. Yeah, so that was it. This is from the University of Chicago Press. The next one I got was yesterday. It's the New York Review of Book. This is the art issue. And the only, there's a couple of reviews in here. Not that many. There's one of Hilary Mantel, her third installment in the Oliver Cromwell series she's doing. And there was, let me see, look on here. It's called Ghost Ship, is basically the title of the article. And the Europeans, 3 lies in making a cosmopolitan culture. Salam, arts and empires and shores of Sahara. And there's not really much in here as far as reviews. Most of them has to do with museums, galleries, what's going on in museums right now. And every single one of them says the museum is closed. Next is my my reads, what I'm reading. And I told you in my last video that I've requested books from Net Gallery, and have my little notepad here, notebook here, and so far I've had 16 books that I've need to read. I've put them on different dates when they come out, May, July. There's August, November. There's one in December. So yes, and I read 3 of them. And the first one I read was Private Cathedral, and this is by James Lee Burke, and his David Robideau series. I have never read a James Lee Burke novel before this, and this one was called A Private Cathedral. It was supposed to come out on May the 5th, but it's been postponed until August the 11th. And so I'm not familiar with it, so I read this one, and it was very well done. The story flows pretty well, and you have two families in Louisiana, the Belangis and the Shondells, and they have been there ensconced in the Louisiana parish for a long time. They have been rivals. They're type of mafia type families, but David Robideau and his partner Cletus Purcell is investigating a missing teenager. That's why they're there, and they run into these families. Johnny Shondell is a wannabe rock star. He's hooked up with this other lady. See if I can find her name here. Oh, yeah. Let me see. Isadel Belangi. But Isadel Belangi is there's another Shondell. Didn't write his name down. It's not Johnny, it's somebody else. But he wants to take over both families. Well, the Belangis anyway, get them out. So he is hooked up with this guy named uh, Gideon Richetti. Gideon Richetti, and he is he's a he's a ghost. And so David Roberto has to deal with the supernatural in this story. And there's the priest in here, and there's a quote in the book says everyone has a private cathedral that he earns a special place to which he returns when the world is too much. There's careless despair, hate come with the rising of the sun. So it was very good. I really enjoyed it. You have you can see how the decrepit and there's no moral standards whatsoever between anyone in the story. And the next book I read was by Claire Carlisle. Claire Carlisle is a reader in the of philosophy and religion at King's College, Cambridge, and she wrote a book called what was it? I'm sorry here, yeah, Philosopher of the Heart. It's a biography of Soren Kierkegaard. This is and Kierkegaard lived from 1813 to 1855, and he was Danish, and in Copenhagen. And in the story, he talks. Kierkegaard is trying to put his faith and reason at the same time. He's trying to find out why the Lutherans, the Danish state churches, are acting the way they do, because there's easy believism going on in around 1830, and the people are not participating in the church. They're acting like it's like, we have to go to church. Let's go on and do our penance and then we'll leave. And Kierkegaard can't believe this, and he keeps looking up to the account where Abraham is going to sacrifice Isaac. God tells Abraham to sacrifice Isaac on Mount Moriah, which is essentially in the Old Testament the Mount of God. So he was obedient. He goes up there to sacrifice his son, and then God stops him. This is a parallel, actually, to the whole story is a parallel to what came before. What came before is Hagar and it's not Ismail. Um, Abraham's the handmaid of Sarah, Hagar and Ishmael. Yes, I'm sure that's right. The same thing. The same thing happens. They're in the wilderness. Uh, Hagar doesn't want to see Ishmael die, and God protects him. And so said he won't die. The child won't die. And it's the same parallel story. But that's not told in the Philosopher of the Heart. But in the Philosopher of the Heart is and I wrote a lot of notes on this, because once you request a book, they usually send it to you. But because of this pandemic, they couldn't send it to you, so I got it through ebooks. And it's something called Pocket Books. Pocket Books, you can either read along, or you can have this robotic voice read it for you. And by robotic, I mean this woman doesn't know how to pronounce Napoleon. She says Napoli. And when it comes to a date, there's a date and a period and a footnote there. She'll go 1723 point 62. And then it's a lot of times the robotic type computer will stop at a word like here's one. What is true? She goes, and it says what is, and you'll have the TR in true marked off, but you'll have the UE not. So she'll go, what is true? And then she'll say ooh. So it's kind of funny to listen to it. But Kierkegaard says that he's concerned about the spiritual life of the people there in Copenhagen. And it is very, very good. And he gets up and says that, and he also preaches in the same church that he used to sit there and listen to the sermons. There's a statue there in the church called the Statue of Christ, with the head bowed, arms stretched upon deep stillness that draws you in, brings you to a halt. And so you have two opposite extremes at once. You have suffering, despair, faith and intensity, anxiety, and profound peace. And so it's too easy to be comfortable. And that's what Kierkegaard is struggling with, because these people that are Lutherans in the state church are too comfortable in their faith. And says that and Christianity is not a doctrine with not existence communicate. And excuse me, I'm going to skip that one. So he has to enter their, it says you have to enter their illusion to draw them out of it. That's their illusion. Their illusion, their faith is that it's one, they don't have to do anything. They're just comfortable with their faith. And there was a time when during Christmas time, you have the festivals, and you have like childhood nostalgia, and for children. And so there's nothing going on during Christmas time in Copenhagen that has to do with the Christ child. That has to do with God coming down to earth, becoming man, and is related to the spiritual category of becoming a human being, and thus is not related. Thus is not related. So you have that coming down. And that's missing there in Copenhagen. But Martin Luther, did the 95 Theses on the door of the Church of Wittenberg, and thus started all this Reformation, this easy believism, was, he said that reason was a whore. Those his exact words. He didn't, but Thomas Aquinas said that reason and faith are two ways of knowing. And so is there anyone who knows what Christianity is all about? So Christmas is all about. That's Charlie Brown saying. And Kierkegaard can act just like Linus and mention the Matthew passage. And the last thing he preached, and this is in the book, the person who merely admires Christ from a distance will take just a moment. The person who merely admires Christ from a distance will take no sacrifices, nothing. It will give up nothing earthly, will not transform his life, will not be what is admired, will not let his life express it. Only the imitator of Christ is a true Christian. The next book I read was let me see if I can find it here. It's not very good. It was one of the worst books I've read this year, and it's called First Actress, The Life of Sarah Bernhardt by C.W. Gortner. And this one also comes out in May 5th, I believe. Let me check that. And God, they might have changed it because of this pandemic. They probably changed it, but it's not very good. C.W. Gortner has written several books with women as characters. They're historical fiction. He wrote one on Coco Chanel, and he's written several others. One of them on a Tudor queen, I believe, and another one on a Russian princess, I believe. But this is the first time I've ever read one by him, and it's written in first person. And the narrative of the story, First Actress, The Life of Sarah Bernhardt, is repetitiveness. And it just, you have the same thing over and over and over again in every single chapter. Sarah Bernhardt was born in France, and I had the dates here, but I don't know what I did with my other notes, because it just has right here. Yeah, she was born in France right before the Prussian War, and I think it was 1880. I'm not sure. She was an illegitimate child, and she was Jewish, but she was sent to boarding school, and from there she wanted to be a Catholic nun, but then she moved to Paris. That was in Brittany. She moved to Paris to live with an aunt, and then she went to the theater for the first time and met Alexander Dumas, and Alexander Dumas said, "You should be an actress. You'll be a great actress." Also in the theater was George Sand, or Sand. How do you pronounce that lady's name? Later on in the story, there is Victor Hugo, and there is I can't think of that gentleman's name. Playwright from Ireland who was tossed in prison. I can't think of his name for sodomy. I can't think of his name at the moment. Probably come to me tonight. We're trying to sleep. And anyway, back to the narrative of the story. It's the repetitiveness is that Sarah Bernhardt will go from a high to a low, and then go back up to the high, then back to the low. It's like there's one part in the story in which her sister, who's living with her, is grieving, dying. She's dying on their deathbed, so to speak, and Sarah Bernhardt, has to go to the theater in order to perform. And someone asked, "Oh, what's the problem?" It's, "Oh, my sister's dying." The very next sentence, she's in bed with this guy from the play, and that part lasts for 4 or 5 pages. And that's the way this author did it. And he goes, the high lows are not low enough. They don't last very long. They only last like a half a page, maybe a couple of sentences, and that's it. And the rest of it, and the rest of the story, her highs last longer. The main character is self-centered. She's egotistical. She's undisciplined. She doesn't care about anybody else. She doesn't care about consequences of her actions. And when she butts heads a lot. In every single chapter, she's butting heads with someone. And you get frustrated just doing that when you hear that. The mother's name, Sarah's mother's name is the author mentioned Sarah's mother's name, by her first name. And I got confused. It's like, well, you tell them about the first. Who are you talking about? Who's Julie? And one of the other things wrong with the story, with the book, is descriptions or lack of it. There's like a couple of things that he describes, but he's mostly leaving it up to the reader to come up with their own descriptions. Oh, they know what Paris looks like in 1850. Yeah, so I don't have to put anything in there. Wrong. No, you do. It's like you're telling me, the reader, something, you're not showing them. Early on, there's a part where Sarah's in the boarding school. She's praying for this. She has to be in the play, but she wants to be the star of it, so she's praying to God that the the person picked won't get sick. So it happens that the person does get sick, and she's in the lead as an archangel, and the Monsignor's there, and she wants to kiss the ring of the Monsignor. Sarah does, but the mother superior there at the boarding school, and doesn't want her to, but she disobeys the mother superior, kisses the ring on the pardon me, on the Monsignor's hand. Well, apparently that was all he was wearing, because the author fails to mention it, that he's wearing a robe and shoes. Like, what's wrong with that? Later on in the story, he says that Sarah Bernhardt put on the robe of Zechariah. And apparently he thinks the reader knows what the robe of Zechariah looks like in the year 1902. And, oh yes, Oscar Wilde. She's running around with Oscar Wilde. You can't do anything for her, but there's an American that had come to see her that wants to pay for everything to make her a big star in America also. But she won't go with him, even though in the previous verses the author said that she is poor. She has all these bills to pay. Yet she runs around with Oscar Wilde. And I wouldn't buy. I wouldn't buy that one. I would purchase The Philosopher of the Heart. That was the best one of the three I read by Clara Carlyle. Well, that was it. That's what I read, and I wish I had a better technology to show you the books. And what I'm currently reading, excuse me, sorry about that. What I'm currently reading is a biography of John Monroe by Tim McGraw. And he has written some naval books about the Revolutionary War, during the Revolutionary War. And right now he's I'm reading a book by him on President John Monroe, 5th President of the United States. And it's very, very good. So I'm going to enjoy this. So, okay. Well, thank you very much, BookTube. Thank you for the likes. And thank you for the comments. Thank you for the subscribers. And take care.